Imagine losing an entire city. It sounds impossible, right? How do you lose the most famous city in the history of the world? For centuries, millions of people traveled to Jerusalem, believing they were walking on the exact streets where King David ruled and where the prophets spoke. They walked inside the big stone walls of the old city, looked at the towers and said, "This is it," but they were wrong. About 150 years ago, a few explorers started digging and realized something shocking. The real city of David, the original Zion mentioned in the Bible, was not inside the safe walls. It was outside on a small, dusty hill that everyone had ignored. This discovery changed everything we know about history. For almost 2,000 years, this hill was used as a farm. People planted vegetables and trees on top of the palaces of kings. This might sound like a sad accident, but it was actually a fulfillment of a specific prophecy. The prophet Micah said clearly that Zion would be plowed like a field. For centuries, farmers plowed the ground, having no idea that the palace of the greatest king of Israel was sleeping right beneath their feet. When archaeologists finally started to peel back the layers of dirt, they found massive stone structures that did not fit the story of a small village. They found a huge stepstone structure that supported a massive building. Based on the pottery and the style, many experts now believe this is the palace of King David himself. Think about that. The Bible describes David looking out from his palace over the city. Now you can stand on that exact spot. The stones are literally coming out of the ground to tell their story. This discovery is not just about old rocks. It is a direct challenge to anyone who says the Bible is a fairy tale. For years, critics said King David was just a myth or a small tribal leader with no real kingdom. But now the earth is opening up and showing us massive walls and government buildings from exactly the right time period. The city was hidden for a reason. It was waiting for the right time to be revealed. And the fact that it is being revealed right now in our generation makes you wonder if we are living in a very special time. As they kept digging in this new area, they found something tiny that made a bigger noise than the huge walls. Usually, when a city is destroyed by fire, everything is lost. But fire does something special to clay. In ancient times, important letters were sealed with a small piece of soft clay, stamped with the ring of the sender. If the letter is burned, the paper disappears, but the clay hardens into stone. It becomes a permanent record. In a layer of ash and destruction left by the Babylonian army, archaeologists found a tiny clay seal, no bigger than a fingertip. They cleaned it off and read the ancient Hebrew letters. It said, "Belonging to Hezekiah, son of Ahaz, king of Judah." This was the personal seal of one of the most important kings in the Bible. Hezekiah was the king who prayed for Jerusalem when the Assyrian army surrounded them, and God sent an angel to save the city. Holding this seal is like shaking hands with the king himself, but the story gets even better. Just a few feet away from the king's seal, in the same layer of dirt, they found another seal. This one was damaged, but the letters were clear enough to read the name Isaiah. This is Isaiah the prophet. The Bible tells us that King Hezekiah and Isaiah were best friends. When the king was in trouble, he called the prophet. They worked together, prayed together, and led the people together. Now, 3,000 years later, their seals were found lying next to each other in the dust. This is not a coincidence. It is a message. The Bible says that truth shall spring out of the earth. These tiny pieces of clay are witnesses. They survived wars, fires, and thousands of years of rain and farming to be found by us today. It shows us that the people in the Bible were real people with real problems and real faith. They faced armies and impossible odds, just like we face challenges today. And just as God heard the prayers of Hezekiah and Isaiah, these stones remind us that He is listening to us too. The connection between the king and the prophet was not just a story on a page. It was a real friendship preserved in the ground forever. Sometimes the biggest discoveries happen by complete accident. A few years ago, a construction crew was fixing a broken sewer pipe at the bottom of the hill in Jerusalem. As they were digging, they hit large flat stone steps. They stopped work and called the archaeologists. As they cleared away the mud dirt, they realized they had found the Pool of Siloam. This is the exact pool where Jesus told the blind man to go and wash his eyes. For centuries, people thought the pool was in a different place, but the Bible gave specific clues, and once again, the Bible was right. This pool was massive. It was not just a small hole in the ground. It was the size of 2 Olympic swimming pools. This was the place where millions of people would wash and prepare themselves before walking up to the temple for the big festivals. But the pool was just the starting point. Leading up from the pool, archaeologists found a massive stone road buried under tons of rock. This is called the Pilgrimage Road. It goes all the way from the bottom of the city up to the Temple Mount. This is the road that Jesus and his disciples would have walked on. It was buried when the Romans destroyed the city, and it stayed hidden until now. Walking on these stones feels different because you know you are walking on the same pavement as the heroes of the faith. The prophet Isaiah talked about a time when God would say, build up the highway, remove the stones from the road of my people. For 2,000 years, this road was blocked, buried, and forgotten. But now it is being cleared. You can literally walk through the tunnel and see the shops on the side of the street where people bought sacrifices or food. It feels like the city is waking up from a long sleep. The opening of this road is like a physical sign that the way to the presence of God is being opened again. It connects the miracle of the blind man seeing to the journey of worship. It reminds us that our walk with God is a journey, step by step, going up to the mountain of the Lord. Why is all of this happening now? That is the question we need to ask. For hundreds of years, the land was silent, the ruins were covered, and the truth was hidden. But in the last few decades, it is like the ground has started to speak. Jesus once said that if the people were silent, the stones would cry out. We live in a world that tries to silence the message of the Bible. People say it is made up, that it is just stories, or that it is not relevant to our modern life. But the stones are crying out to prove them wrong. Every time a shovel hits the ground in Jerusalem, another verse of the Bible is confirmed. We found the seal of the governor of the city. We found the walls that Nehemiah built in a hurry. We found the evidence of the Babylonian fire. The physical evidence is piling up so high that it is impossible to ignore. This connects to a beautiful prophecy in Psalm 102. It says that the time to favor Zion has come, for your servants take pleasure in her stones and favor her dust. The fact that we care about these stones, that we are digging them up and cleaning them off, is a prophetic sign. It means we are in a time of favor. It means that God is turning his attention back to this special place. The discovery of these ancient structures is not just for history museums. It is a wake-up call for us. It tells us that God keeps his promises. He promised that the city would be rebuilt, and we are seeing it. He promised that the truth would be revealed, and we are holding it in our hands. So when you see these discoveries on the news, do not just scroll past. Stop and realize what you are seeing. You are seeing the physical proof of God's faithfulness. The era of the kings is not lost. It is rising to the surface to remind us that the King of Kings is still on the throne. The same God who watched over David and Hezekiah and who walked these roads in the flesh is watching over you today. The stones have done their job. They have kept the secret until the world needed it most. Now the question is, are we listening to what they are saying? The past is unlocking the future, and the story is far from over.